Welcome to Australian Hunger. I'm your host Ben. On today's episode I've got an interview with Jeff Becerra, a very, very special interview because he's of legendary death metal band Possessed. They're releasing a new album, and some of you might be thinking, hang on, didn't they break up after those two albums? Yes, and about 10 years ago Jeff Becerra got a bunch of new musicians and has been playing shows ever since, and has now finished off a third album. That's soon to come, but before then I want to talk a bit about Neil Young. And you may be thinking, why the fuck are you talking about Neil Young? Because he's releasing a book later this year called Feel the Music, a songwriter's quest to save high quality audio. And that's something that I'm kind of interested in, no, not personally. I don't listen to as much high quality audio as perhaps I'd like to, in the kind of way that I never consume enough things that I really want to. Partly I kind of fear that maybe I don't quite have the ear for it anymore, or I ever did. But that's perhaps another issue. I find this really fascinating because, like so many things that I talk about, it all comes down to the rise of companies which deal with technology and their distribution of things in a digital format. So when you had a CD, you kind of had a, not master quality, but a version which has more quality than the one you get on an MP3. Even the biggest MP3s, because they're lossy. They lose something in the conversion from the CD to the file format. You can get various different other file formats, including FLAC, which has less lossy. They're called lossless. And so you've got all these different file formats that are available. And what most people consume is through streaming and stuff like that, which is lossy. It's using a lossy file, or at least how it's sent to them is lossy. This is something that's also come up in a podcast that I've been listening to lately, The Important Cinema Club. So they're one of the things they were talking about. I can't remember whether that was last week or last month or last year, because I've been going through their back catalogue. One of the things they were talking about was the conversion from film to digital, and the fact that that process hasn't quite been tuned properly, and they're destroying the original prints of movies, which means we're losing something. That they no longer have those original copies and that quality that's in those original copies. And that's something I really fear, and it's something that I don't know why could really happen, because the promise of the digital age is that we, have the ability to digitize things. Digital is forever. All good. But that's not what's happening. There's a couple of different things. One, I think there may be a loss. I don't necessarily know if that's audio, but there can be a loss in the transference purely from a physical medium to a digital medium. And then there's the destruction of the original physical mediums, either because they have been stored in incorrect conditions or the companies just destroy them. I'm not sure about how widespread that is in the music industry, but it seems like it's a definite concern, especially with older films in the film industry. Just not destroying prints just because they take up a lot of room. And that's part of the problem, is that even though theoretically it could be done, there's no real incentive for companies to preserve these original prints, because it takes up a lot of storage space. The transference and having a digital copy can take up a lot of storage space as well, because, it's such a vast, I believe, file. And so we're kind of in this weird world where theoretically, we should, we don't have the issues that they had back in the day of losing manuscripts, losing all the copies of the manuscripts. We don't have the original Gospels. We don't have so many works of so many great thinkers. And I just assumed, that it would be different these days, that no, there wouldn't be an issue. But there still is this problem of preserving the original quality of original media productions. And I think that's so important, because you may not necessarily know the difference between an MP3 at 320 or a FLAC file, but I feel like there's just such value in preserving the highest quality versions of any media product that we have, because there's nuance there, and it'd be a shame for nuance to be lost. I don't know if I can make like a proper claim like, hey, this is a benefit to you. I feel like it's a tragedy to lose something like that, an absolute tragedy. Jeff Becerra, Possessed, I had a chat with him about their new album being released on the 10th of May. It's called Revelations of Oblivion, their first one in 33 years, which is pretty incredible, and perhaps one of the greatest gaps between albums of all time. He loves to talk, so I didn't get many questions in, but it is interesting to hear someone who has such a history, has such experience, just hear his perspective on things. So without further ado, Jeff Becerra of Possessed. So it's always hard to kind of figure out where to start with a band like Possessed. Maybe the best place would be to talk a little bit about the history of the band from about 2007 to now. Why did you want to get the band back together, and how's that proceeded along the last 10 or so years?
Well, I always wanted to get the band together since the first guys quit, but then I got shot twice, and like I say, I don't want to say the same thing to everybody in Australia, but it makes sense that if a person's hungry, they're not going to be reading a book, and if you're ripped and shattered and torn apart and all fucked up, from some catastrophic injury, you got to put back the core foundational components and kind of rebuild that broken Chinese jigsaw puzzle. So the way I did that was first just to let myself completely fall apart for 5 years, and then to go to college, make A's and get on the honor societies and do all that. And then, of course, I'd always wanted to have kids. So I did things like any good red-blooded American. We got pregnant, we got married, and we got pregnant again. And in that order. And so, between, college really gave me back that self-esteem and, stuff I really needed that I'd lost and or was broken temporarily. And so once I got, eventually, my wife or ex-wife are really great friends, and we divorced amicably, and, and then I felt like I was ready, and started working on Possessed. I got that offer from Sadistic Intent to go, and they were producing this this Possessed tribute album, which is really fucking cool. It has Cannibal Corpse and Amon Amarth and Vader and just a whole bunch of really cool bands playing Possessed songs. And Sadistic Intent was covering The Exorcist, one of our songs, and they asked me to do guest vocals on it. And so they were a really cool band. They played drop B, and so I did really low vocals, kind of more traditional death metal, and are more modern traditional, not California OG, but. And so that was really fun. And then we ended up, they said, hey, you want to do 3 songs at the end of our set in Hollywood on this night, this gig, this gig. They had 3 gigs, and one of them was the first one was the Gathering of the Bestial Legions, and I went and did the last 3 songs as sort of an encore, and the crowd went fucking nuts. It was biblical, fucking crazy. And I was like, oh shit, that's when I really started considering it, because I didn't know whether the whole wheelchair thing would fly. because back in my day we were pretty critical. I think that as bad as it sounds, I think as much as people want to criticize the world, I think the world is like really became a lot more accepting and not so fucking hypercritical, other than, the fucking haters on the net, which, there'll always be those kind of keyboard warriors. But I mean, in real life, like people don't so much like judge people like they used to, like, I mean, in the 60s, I was born in the 60s. And so, that's, Martin Luther King in Vietnam, and Muhammad Ali was going to jail for being a Muslim. And, so I've seen things progress and grow. And so I guess it was just, like, it's amazing because I thought I would get a lot more shit and fucking hate. And believe me, I get a lot of hate for being in a wheelchair. But 99% of the people fucking dig it and don't give a fuck. They see the man in the music rather than just focus like a dumb fuck on the chair, And so, anyway, I got lost there in an angry tirade of self-loathing. And no, I'm just kidding. And so then we toured with Sadistic, and that came to a head on we toured with Danzig and the Blackest, the Black tour. We did Whacking, and like, I forget what year that was, but that was fucking cool. It was like 110,000 people there, and it was really emotionally charged. That's when I really, really knew I wanted to come back, and really, really also knew that I had to put a real Possessed together because, drop tuning, as cool as it is, it's more modern, and Possessed is 440 for life, 4 strings for life, no picks on bass, and playing the fucking actual music absolutely perfect, right, correct, which was always important. And so me and Emilio split off and branched off from Sadistic and really started working on finding just the right components. And, Possessed had like 25 members. And it's weird because, like, I always ask people, and I'm not saying this in a mean way or condescending or anything, but it's just kind of a fun question that speaks volumes. Is, can you name me one band that's been around over 3 decades with all foundational members?
Probably, I don't think so.
Come on, there has to be one. Because I'm held to this standard every fucking day, right? So it's crazy. Like, it just doesn't work that way. Music does not work that way. No bands work that way. You know what I mean? No people even work that way. You know what I mean? It's hard to find married couples that have been together for 30 years, more or less fucking, because it is kind of like being married to 4 ugly women, being in a band. But no, it just, what a band leader like me does is I'll keep trying people, and people will either hate me or like me or love me. And I'll either, I love everybody, I don't give a fuck. And I don't get on people's case if they're doing their job. But what happens a lot is people want to go back to their normal lives. They feel that, they might jump in thinking, oh, it's Possessed, I'm going to make some fucking quick cash and be a rock star. And it's not how music or life works. You have to, I always say Possessed is a very blue collar underground band. Like 99.999% of the world has no fucking clue who Possessed is because we're death metal, and we're a cult band. And, while people in the know Possessed, like a lot, most people have no idea who we are. So it's an uphill climb, and, it's fun. Like, I love the feeling that I'm just starting out every day. Like, even after, 36 or whatever years, 37 years, well, whatever, from 79 till now, me and Larry hooked up in Blizzard, and not hooked up, but connected as musicians in Blizzard in 79. And so whatever, how many years it is from then to now, and I always feel like every day is like just the very first day of the rest of Possessed, So it's been cool. And so, eventually after going through several guitarists, I found Dan through his girlfriend, who was a friend of mine that I used to chat with on Facebook. She's like, my boyfriend's a really good guitarist, but he'd never really been in any bands, of any noteworthy bands that I heard of or anything. He's in some band called Nail Shaker. But as it turns out, Dan just went to college to be an engineer and producer, sat around playing his fucking guitar all the time. He was like, oh my God, like the best guitarist I've ever played with, And he's like a thunderstruck bolt of lightning. came and knew 18 songs, perfect, like better than any member of Possessed has ever played them. And I was like, oh my God, this dude's fucking amazing. Like, you have to see him to believe him. And then we found Robert. Well, we were using Tony Campos, was one of the founding members of Static X, and he's an assassino with Emilio, my drummer. So we were jamming with him on bass for a while, but then he got the Soulfly offer, which is, it's Soulfly. So he jetted to play with Soulfly, and Robert was always kind of hanging in the wings, and or like the backup. But then I gave Robert a try. I don't know why I didn't try Robert out a long time ago, but he's this fucking amazing bass player. He sounds a lot like me, but I always say with more modern equipment to save my ego. Like he's fucking like me, but really, really good. And then lastly, we just found recently, a few years ago, is Claudius Kramer, and the way I found him was I sent out like 30,000 social media contacts, like, who's the best guitarist you know, and over 100 people replied back with Claudius Kramer, or Scooby, his nickname. And so I called him up, like, they gave me his number, called him. He was like, yeah. So I flew him out to LA and tried him out. He was another one of those fucking guitarists, like, where the fuck have you been all my life, right? Like, and everybody's so cool, everybody's well connected. We're like, we think of each other as brothers and our family. We all, get along really well, and we pretty much die for each other. We're fucking really tight. We have that very unique bond that's taken me almost 40 years to find with Possessed. So, yeah, that's why. That's just one of the many reasons why bands change members, and you grow and you define yourself. It's like as a band leader, like making a sculpture. Every little piece you chip off or add on is part of the process. But I feel like, I hope this lineup now for this album never changes. So, of course, I almost never get what I want. So I'm always waiting for that other shoe to drop. So, but hopefully it never changes.
Absolutely. In terms of this latest album, talk a little bit about, obviously it's been a while, 33 years since the last one. Talk a bit about why you wanted to do it, how you went about writing it, kind of your general approach and thoughts about making an album so long after the last one.
Well, like anything, it's a process. We've been, we wanted to really not only, wear the skin of the old Possessed, but just dominate it and own it. And so we toured the old albums, the first two on the EP, for like, 11, 12, 13 years, I forget, since early 2006, 2007. So, by the time we started writing this album, it wasn't like some rendition of Possessed. It was more Possessed than Possessed, And so, once we had that, we were like, we started talking about, I started saying, guys, we got to write new songs. And I remember speaking with Dan and the guys. Dan, we co-write a lot of the songs together, the music. He's like, well, we don't know how is the world gonna, will they even connect with a new Possessed? And Possessed is so culty. Like, are people willing to handle it? Can they handle it? I'm like, yeah, you don't understand. Possessed fans are like intuitive and super, like, hyper intelligent. Like almost nerdy in a good way. Like, cause I kind of think of myself as kind of a nerd in a cool way, I guess. But like it seems like people, I don't like, like fans or supporters. I like to call them supporter because the fans is kind of, I want to be as PC. They're the people that come to the shows and pay our fucking bills. And it's really important that you put shit out that they like, or it will be soul crushing and it will feel like a horrible failure and ruin my life, So you have to, it's like, look, no net, like, so to take a trip across that tightrope, like, we wanted to do something that really stood out and was valid, not only valid, but, like, kind of bold in a statement and had something new and exciting to offer. and try to widen the fringes of what is considered death metal, because what I, of course, I know there's everything from, folk death metal to fucking Viking to fucking melodic, and I don't really believe in subgenres of a subgenre, but I believe it's all death metal, and like all these bands out here playing death metal, make death metal that much more possible to do whatever the fuck you want, whenever the fuck you want to do it, and however the fuck you want to do it. Because, I mean, we played death metal, we invented death metal originally as like an outlet, because we always noticed there's this invisible line that no bands would ever cross for some reason. And it just seems so obvious. Like, why do they always stop, like, right short of the fucking orgasm, Like, it's like a cheese, And so Possessed were the first guys that I ever hooked up with that were willing to just blow past that fucking imaginary line and fucking throw up the horns, 666, hail fucking Satan, and fucking just popcorn machine drums, Cookie Monster vocals, and just fucking really go for it, And I don't want to lose my way here, but I noticed that a lot of bands were just buttonholing themselves, like cookie cutters, like, oh, it's only death metal if you have this, 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 and this. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I've been going a long time. And like, I know this sounds like so like I'm fucking, my head is exploding, or like some like really pretentious bullshit, but it's true. Like, to me, it's like, I hate to see people like set such strict rules. Like, people are still calling us the thrash band, even though like we literally invented, or we're the first death metal band. Yeah, of course, all death metal has some thrashy and black metal components. And if you want to look at it that way, like, but anybody who's been into death metal, like, knows death metal when they hear it, like, of whatever form. You don't have to even say death metal. There's just, it's like a certain tune and frequency, but, well, I mean, for the most part. But at the same time, I don't think there should be any rules. And I also wanted, instead of, when we put out 7 churches, I don't think it's wrong to say that it was apples to oranges different than anything else. It was very much a unique brand of music. There was nothing else like it on the planet. We were the heaviest band on the planet for, at least, a year or two. And, but people caught on really quickly to that style, and it really blew up really fast. And so I didn't want to just try to out heavy it. I call that the race to the bottom, where everybody's trying to be heavier than the next guy until it just turns into fucking white noise and, fucking nuns with fucking barbed wire crosses or something. And I wanted to like do something with like, more musicality, and try to broaden the range on my vocals and kind of mess with that. And I actually pronounce my words. And so again, just like 7 churches, I had no idea. I remember thinking people are either going to like this or love it or just really hate it, And with 7 churches, I thought people probably aren't ready for this. I love it, but we're probably going to get a lot of hate, but so far, I mean, like, the vast majority of people have been saying that they really enjoy this album, and it's not just kicking a dead horse or a revamp or some like retro bullshit. It's looking forward and showing Possessed as kind of a band of the future rather than one of the past.
Definitely. The limited time I've got left here, one thing that kind of interests me, I'm not sure how to phrase this, so correct me if I'm sort of phrasing it wrong, but like, obviously with you being in a wheelchair, like, there's a very different approach to being on a live stage. Talk a little bit about how you approach that.
It's like anything. You're just sitting down. Like, it's actually, there's the breathing is different because I'm paralyzed from like the tits down, the chest down. So I have the bullet sticking on the inside of my spine. So they can't be too invasive to take it out. So I have a piece of lead just stuck on the inside on T3. So like, it's harder to inhale. So like, I've learned little tricks, like take, like little breathing tricks, and I kind of have to lean forward, but sometimes if it's a strong night, I can lean back and just do little tricks, like grab the front of my chair and or grab the side of my leathers, or like hold on to something and just belt it out. And but it's also a lot more freeing because it's too cumbersome to play bass. I'd have to wear a mic headset, which would look really dumb, and I wouldn't be able to roll around and like give it any sort of real show. So that's, even though I still play guitar and bass, it didn't make sense for me to do that because then I'd be really stuck. It'd be really cumbersome. And so just singing, it frees up a lot of headspace for, as much as I didn't really think about singing and playing with the old Possessed, I think a lot more about, every syllable that I sing now. And I try to put a lot more into it, because, I don't want to just be that guy yelling over good music and fucking it up. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's some different breathing techniques. And I mean, for the first year and a half after I got shot, they gave a breathing tube, to open an airway and intubate and to get oxygen to me. And that tube fucked up my vocal box where I couldn't sing for like a year and a half at all. Like I could barely even make a noise. So I had to like retrain my voice, and I had no distortion for a year and a half. And then one day, after like yelling like a freak in my shower for 5 years, I got my voice back, or like a year and a half. And probably at the end of the fifth year of fucking literally just, rolling around my house. I lived alone for 5 years, just like a crazy man, and just yelling and yelling and yelling until I finally got some voice back, and then try to improve on the old voice. And I don't know, I think we just kind of want to show that Possessed is advancing forward rather than just trying to relive some Gloria days. We're actual like veteran musicians. We were kids back on the first album, but we're like men now, and we're going to put a man's effort, as bad as that sounds. So we're going to be the real deal and show people that that we are entertaining, or hopefully they'll be entertaining, and just try to do the best we can, for our supporters out there.
And just finally, I believe you're coming to Australia after so long.
Yeah, we're thinking about coming out in 2020. Nothing for sure yet. It's tentative, but it's a definite maybe, And I would say I'm 90% sure I'm going to be out there, and so I think we're going to hit Australia and New Zealand. And I've always been dying to go out there because y'all are like cool people, and I don't know. I just always wanted to go to Australia, but I'm still like painfully ignorant of what Australia is. I know I've watched like the nature shows on the TV, but I know it's a whole world like Europe or anywhere else. Like it's a whole thing over there, and I want to experience that because that's something I've never. It's one of the last two continents I have to go to before I've been all seven.
That was Jeff Becerra of Possessed. Thank you for sparing the time for me. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, I want to make a recommendation. While we're on the topic of classic death metal, one death metal album, maybe it's not the best. Actually, I definitely know it's not the best. I know that for a fact. This band has got other better albums. But one album which really comes to me, I think this just may be the fact that they're one of the first death metal bands that I discovered, is Cannibal Corpse's debut album, Eaten Back to Life. I don't know if I can recommend it in any qualitative sense, in that it's the fastest, the heaviest, the first, the most brutal, because I don't know if it's any of those things, but I love that album. There's just certain qualities that I love about the album. Particularly, I feel like Chris Barnes at times had a poetry about him, even if it was kind of perverse and absurd. I like a lot of those albums. It really is. I feel like this album is like one of the last gasps of thrash metal. You can hear this tiniest little influence of thrash metal in the album, and then after this, like death metal kind of, in general, goes a very different way. So I would recommend going listen to all the bands, all the early death metal bands. Death. I probably would recommend Death even more, to be honest, because there's a lot more of interest in that band. But Cannibal Corpse for me, I think, always holds a special place in my heart. If you want to get in contact, you can catch me on social media, AusHunger, that's AUS Hunger, on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You can send me an email, australianhunger@gmail.com, if you want comments, questions, thoughts. If you're interested in an interview, maybe we can set something up. Until next time, thanks for listening. Bye.